Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
So, next month...
Yes, because I don't know what we're doing next month.
You don't?
No. Oh dear.
I wanted to read a Doctor that we haven't read yet, so...
Yes.
I decided to go with a 10th Doctor novel.
Yes.
Or a collection of novellas, really.
Ooh, okay.
We're going with The Story of Martha.
Oh dear. Right.
We find out what Martha was up to during her year on Earth fighting the Tochlafane.
Okay. That's set in my least favourite finale. Yeah, okay. Well, this is unexpected.
I think Martha deserves a little bit more love compared to Donna and Rose.
Yeah. At least it's not set in the end of time. It could be worse.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Hello.
Welcome. It's February.
It is. It's February, and the days are starting to get that little bit longer in the UK, and so it'll be a bit ambitious to say spring is on its way, but this tends to be the time of year when, if it's going to snow, this will be when. Yeah, no, things are good.
Minneapolis is hosting the Super Bowl this weekend, so the town is basically shut down, and it's the coldest Super Bowl ever on record, which is like, I think, -5 degrees or something. Like that Fahrenheit.
Yes.
So it's very cold here still, but we just wanted to welcome all of our new listeners who may have first heard of us at Gallifrey 1 this month, and just a quick note of congratulations, Chris, or self-congratulations, I should say. We've been now doing this for a full year. This is our 12th monthly episode, so...
Yay!
Hooray!
Yes. Welcome one and all.
Do you have anything for show and tell this month?
I do. And it's something that is hardly up to date. I recently, for the very first time, listened to the Marion Conspiracy from Big Finish, which is a 6 Doctor audio. It's Evelyn's debut story, and I thought it was brilliant. Relatively early in the Big Finish run, and for some reason I'd never got around to listening to it. The first 50 Big Finish monthly range stories are available at reduced rate. They were super reduced over Christmas, but most of them you can get for, I think it's something like £2.50, £2.99, that kind of price range. Obviously those prices may vary in other territories. It was a really compelling listen. It's sort of a historical set during the reign of Queen Mary. It's great. Have you ever heard that one?
I've listened to all the Big Finishes up through Zagreus for sure, and I think that was their 50th title, and at least in the monthly range, I think it was up to or number 100, where Nick Briggs took over from Gary Russell for the producing, and then I've kind of dipped in and out, mainly focusing on some of like the special one-off miniseries they've done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marion Conspiracy was a great one, and that one was that a pure historical?
It is, yeah. On reflection, it is, yes. Well, there's a sci-fi element, but that's really kind of just by virtue of it being a Doctor Who story.
I had the good fortune to meet Maggie Stables once at a convention stateside. I think it was in Chicago one year. She was a really brilliant lady. Great companion.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I think well worth a listen if you have not had the time, dear listener. So, how about you, Matt? Have you got anything to show and tell?
Yeah, just a quick announcement and a kind of an exciting bit of news from Console Room, which is the Doctor Who convention that's local to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's 5th year this year, and they just announced the entire Paternoster gang will be at Console Room.
Oh, cool.
So that's like a big get for us after Peter Davison canceled last year. So we're going to have Neve McIntosh, or Neve McIntosh, I think it's how it's pronounced.
I think it's Neve, yeah.
Madame Vastra, Dan Starkey, Strax, and then Katrin Stewart as Jenny. And you would think that, speaking of Big Finish, that the Paternoster gang would have featured in their own Big Finish series by now, but we've only had guest appearances from two of the gang and other characters' spin-offs. Vastra appeared in, I think, Churchill Volume 2, and Strax is only in a one-off Jago and Lightfoot special. It's kind of weird to think that Churchill got a spin-off before these three. But maybe Big Finish wasn't able to use them regularly until the Moffat era was over or something. So hopefully we'll see more from these three.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, there is also a Strax audio book that I think does touch upon the Paternoster gang, but that's kind of narrated by Dan Starkey. But I don't think that came from Big Finish. But
I think Dan Starkey's written some other Big Finish audios too, like in their main range. So he's kind of moving into writing territory in addition to being an actor. So it's pretty cool.
Shall we remind the lovely people of what we've been reading this month?
So this month we are reading The Story of Martha, which is by Dan Abnett, and it features contributing works from 4 different authors. And I think when we get to the 4 stories, we'll talk a little bit about the different authors in the range. We've discussed Dan Abnett before. He wrote The Silent Stars Go By, and he was instrumental in revamping the Guardians of the Galaxy series and kind of relaunching that for Marvel. And he wrote the framing story to this. This one's an interesting one because it has Freema Agyeman doing the narration for 4 of the short stories, but didn't narrate the linking material. So it's kind of disjointed that way. But I did get a hardcover of this, and I have to say I really like the hardcover style that they used to have with the 9th and 10th Doctor books before they switched to paperback. They're back to the hardcovers for the 12th Doctor and Bill, but it's kind of a larger format size. But these earlier books, they remind me a little bit of like the Lemony Snicket or the Series of Unfortunate Events books, just how nicely they're presented, and I kind of miss that a little bit with some of the newer books. Shall we
begin?
Jump into this story?
Yeah. The story begins with Martha sort of arriving as a passenger in a small boat from Dunkirk to the English coastline, and she's been making this journey in secret, and she's met by Tom Milligan, who because this bit is taken from Last of the Time Lords. And Tom Milligan, you may know better now as Lucifer from the TV series. So Martha is meeting the devil, so to speak. And so it's and she sort of says that it's been 365 days since her journey began. So it's her first time back in England in over a year. And so we then flashback to events of 1 year earlier.
And during those events, Martha escapes the Valiant. I think it was using Jack's teleporter, the same one Clara uses in the 50th. And she teleports down to the surface, and the book kind of opens with her being on the run for a couple of weeks, and she's being chased by this, I think they're called UCF, is that the acronym? I think they're just called Overwatch, or that's kind of the group, the new master-led fascist regime that's taken over the world. And so Martha's kind of on the run for 2 weeks, and we do get some good references back to 2007 in this section, like things like, scattered DVD shelves, and, components of different Wiis being left around, and no smartphones. So there's it's weird to think that world was 10 years ago. We do get some good information about how perception filters work too. So she's being pursued by this guy with like a scar down his face whose name is Griffin, and he's hot on Martha's trail, and he's trying to figure out how her perception filter works. And she wears her TARDIS key and she kind of disappears from sight. There were a couple things here that didn't really ring true to me just in the opener. Like, would it really take Martha 2 weeks to figure out that, I need to ditch my heels and not run around in heels? And where has she been getting perfume the last few weeks? Because that's one of the ways that Griffin's able to and like the pack of dogs that is chasing her is able to sense her as like, oh, I left my perfume on and the perception filter doesn't work with smells. So it's just like, oh. I don't think it would have taken Martha that long to figure all that out. But she runs into this little girl who's been surviving like on spoiled yogurt pots and convenience stores leftovers. She manages to like bring the girl to like a refugee camp or something that's kind of just getting started up, and she decides to tell the girl a story to inspire her.
Yeah, and so that story is called The Weeping, and it's brought to us by David Roden, who his first contribution to The Wonderful World of Doctor Who was co-writing Dimensions in Time.
Yes. And he also wrote a 10th Doctor and Donna audiobook and did some work for the Marvel Doctor Who yearbooks.
Yes.
That brings us to our first dramatic reading. This is taken from the 4 short stories that were narrated by Freema Agyeman, and this is available on iTunes, Audible, wherever you get downloadable books. But this is just a short scene of the Doctor and Martha receiving a warning, and they're translating the warning in the TARDIS.
A blue box spun through the iridescent shimmer of the vortex, buffeted on all sides by the time winds. Inside the blue box, the impossibly vast organic chamber was suffused with a greenish light that emanated from pulsing circuits rammed higgledy-piggledy under a metal-grilled floor. And either side of the jumbled central control console were 2 figures, Martha Jones and the Doctor. "So it's a warning, then?" Martha ventured. With a flourish of his right hand, the Doctor tipped a switch upwards, snorted, and peered anxiously at the scanner mounted on the console. Glasses now on, he rapped the screen with his knuckles. "Sounds like a warning to me," she said. "Nah," the Doctor retorted. "Nothing like a warning." An incoherent babble of distorted voices crackled from an ancient speaker grill near the scanner. The Doctor tugged an ink pen from his inside suit pocket and began scribbling furiously on a notepad. "Well, it's not a mayday, and it's not junk mail. Come on, what are you?" The symbols he scribbled were strange, spidery and archaic, like alien shorthand. "Ah!" he exclaimed, straightening up and beaming his best toothy grin. "Gotcha!" He hopped backwards onto one of the 2 pilot seats at the edge of the console, swinging his long legs back and forth underneath him. "That's brilliance, that is, Martha Jones. An unknown alien language deciphered in less than, 10 seconds?" He waved the pad under Martha's nose. "Oh, yes!" He grinned, and then realised that Martha was staring at him, unimpressed. "What?" And then his voice notched up a touch. "What?" Martha looked at him. "It's a warning, isn't it?" "Yes," he said, a touch shamefaced. Martha laughed and poked him in the ribs.
Yeah, so Doctor and Martha are arriving on this planet called Agaleos in response to a warning signal. So apologies on the pronunciation. I read this rather than listen to it, so my pronunciations might not quite match up to Martha's, to Freema, pardon me. But yeah, the human colony here had been kind of established because there was a wormhole nearby which endowed them with psychic powers. And so the Doctor and Martha, they were kind of wandering across an icy landscape, and they arrive in the settlement, but they're being kind of chased by all these kind of monstrous creatures. And then they're saved by an older man called Wachter, and he kind of takes them to a kind of a tower in the middle of the town. And Wachter explains that he's the last survivor of the colonists, and as such, he's the guardian of the beacon that's sending out the warning signal.
His name is a corruption of the word Watcher.
Yes.
He's been there for many, many years, and Martha and the Doctor remarked that he's like the oldest person they've ever seen, and he's psychically linked to this beacon with like a piece of hardware implanted in his body that's keeping him young.
Or keeping him alive, at the very least, yes. And basically he just wants to kind of return to home and die, which is nice. So the doctor sort of says that they'll kind of help him, and so he kind of sets out to distract the beasts whilst Martha takes White back to the TARDIS. White kind of collapses in the snow, but they manage to kind of get him into the TARDIS, and whilst in there, the doctor tries to kind of remove the chip and then realises that there's kind of like a problem that White will die if they actually kind of continue on removing the chip.
It's a form of death because it turns out the kind of the twist of the story is that all these other creatures that are on this planet, on this colony world, are evolutions or de-evolutions of the colonists that were there. So Watcher, whatever, however his name is pronounced, by removing that chip, he's starting to change into like one of these almost like were creatures that are on this planet. And it's kind of this dilemma of, you know, does the doctor allow this person to go through the transformation and become this monster, or does he stop the creature and this guy's kind of trapped in the same cycle with the beacon? And I think they ultimately land on the Doctor and Martha allowing the transformation to occur. And I think that's what he wants too, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's White's choice, and so he kind of like uses psychic paper. Yeah, he decides to change so that he's not going to be alone. Yeah, there ends the story, I think.
Yeah, and why on earth would Martha tell this to a little girl? Well, this kind of like this story with like lots of body horror in it, similar to like The Fly or Kafka's Metamorphosis. It's like, I'm going to comfort you by
giving you a horrific story, which also she tells entirely in the third person, so she comes across as quite egotistical.
Yeah,
because like I must say, I was expecting these Martha narratives to be in the first person if she's telling these stories.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's almost as if they figured out what the framework was after everyone had written the book, their components.
They got a handful of short stories and thought, well, this isn't enough to make an anthology, but
yes, this is quite like Full Circle, but we can't make a book out of it.
I also didn't really care for how similar thematically this was to the season finale in the framing material. Having the ancient man unable to die, that's what happened with the Dobby Doctor.
Yes.
On the Valiant, and evolving into the monster is the exact same twist used with the Tochlafane. Yeah. So it's a perfectly fine little short story, but if I was the editor, I think I would exclude this because certain story beats are too similar to Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. Yeah. It just doesn't feel different enough.
And as you say as well, why do you give this story to a 9-year-old? Yeah. So Martha, having traumatised Alicia, takes a cold shower to wash off her perfume. I don't think we're told whether she gets any other perfume or whether just now it's just kind of the scent of Martha for the remainder of the year. So anyway, she kind of stays for a few hours and sort of tells the people some more stories about the Doctor. I don't think we're told them.
Martha's dropping the girl off at a refugee camp in Battersea.
Yeah.
And they exchange gifts. Martha gives her sparkly earrings, which were kind of showing through the perception filter as well. The girl gives Martha a little plastic badge that says, "Hooray, I am 9 years old." And Martha then makes her way into France. Yes. So she's heading east. And she, there are these things called flash markets, which are like black market sort of stands that kind of spring up. Everyone does their business really quickly before Overwatch is able to detect them, and then the market disappears right away.
Yeah, it's very much like a flash mob. It's very 2007. Flash mobs are very much the same.
Griffin from Overwatch is still following her, and he catches up to her at this flash market, and Martha's meeting a contact named Matthew, spelled the French way.
Oh, Matteo.
Or Matteo, yeah. Or Matthew.
Matthew, yeah.
So she meets up with her contact, but she kind of notices that, hey, Overwatch is circling this thing and they're going to start firing off guns and killing people. So she gives out an early warning and saves a lot of lives, not everyone's. Some of this is kind of a little grisly. And Martha and Matthew, They run off together in a van, being pursued by Griffin, who's kind of firing a gun after them.
It's a Citroen van, of course, it being France. So, yes. And so the windscreen kind of gets shot out, and Matthew manages to kind of make it to a survivor camp. And so Martha's kind of tending to his wounds, and so she thinks, yay, it's another case for story time.
Story time with Dr. Martha.
Yes. So we now have Breathing Space, written by Paul Lewis and Steve Lockley, I believe.
And they've written a number of sci-fi and horror books together, but I think this is their only contribution to Doctor Who.
No.
Is it not?
No, it's not. It's not. They also wrote War in Time of Peace for Short Trips Destination Prague, which seems quite niche. I mean, Prague is a wonderful city. I'm sure. I've never been. I don't know whether the world was really itching to have a book of short stories all set in Prague. But
that's something we haven't touched on before. So in addition to the 3 short trips books that the BBC did, Big Finish ended up publishing, I think, 30 volumes of short trips work, and some of them got really esoteric in their like a collection of stories all set in Prague.
Yes.
It was like, okay, so the editor must have gone to Prague, really liked it, and said,
yes.
let's set a whole book here.
Yes. Hi, Eric, if he's listening to this from Prague.
That's right. Yeah,
one of the hosts of the first version of this program now resides in the Czech capital.
So this story opens. It's a space station orbiting Earth in 2088, and the plot of this short story reminds me quite a bit of V. With you have like these benefactors contacting the human race, saying, "Hey, we've got your get out of climate change free card. You can use our technology at no cost to you, and we'll scrub the atmosphere with these bioships called whales that are kind of like this gaseous dough-like creatures that will kind of just sit in the atmosphere and take in all the bad gases, the greenhouse gases, and clean the atmosphere that way." And humanity is like, sure, sign us up for this. Yeah. And the Doctor and Martha land on the space station in the middle of the control room, which is kind of like mission control. And this brings us to our next short dramatic reading. The Doctor is activating a fire alarm to cause a distraction, and we'll listen to that here.
They sprinted the last few yards and only just squeezed through before the doors closed with a heavy thud. Had there been any guards on the other side, she and the Doctor would have run straight into them, but the corridor was deserted. Martha leaned against the wall, gulping down air, heart thumping. How she envied the Doctor, who, despite his 900 years, didn't seem at all out of breath. He flashed the sonic screwdriver over a keypad at the side of the doorway, fanning the air when sparks cascaded out and a scorching smell filled the corridor. "Sorry. Smoking. Terrible habit. You're right, Martha. Only you look a bit peaky." "I'm fine," she said. Her legs trembled so badly she could barely stand, but she didn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing it, not with his warped sense of humour. What did you do back there?" "Fire alarm. Brilliant, eh? I noticed the sensors on the ceiling and knew the doors would close automatically because that's what always happens in the films. But we can't stand here gassing. Remember the way back to the TARDIS?" Martha recalled the blur of endless corridors, lit by cold white overhead strip lights, remembered the lifts and all those left and right turns that had finally led them here. "No," she said with a shake of her head. "Sorry." The Doctor flashed his teeth. "Don't be. I need to get back there quickly, and I want you to lead Grant's goons away." "What do you want me to do?" "Just keep moving for as long as you can and stay on this floor. That way you can't inadvertently lead them to the TARDIS. They'll have the doors open before long, so the more time you can buy me, the quicker I can put things right." "How bad is it?" The Doctor stared at her somberly. "End of the world bad." "Right. Well, perhaps you'd better get going, Dr. Smith." "I will, Dr. Jones. Try to stay out of trouble." With that, he dashed down the corridor towards the nearest lift.
All right, and the Doctor and Martha are running, and they've split up in the space station. Martha eventually gets captured by the chief of security and brought back to the bridge. She buys the Doctor enough time for him to escape to the TARDIS, where he figures out what these creatures are, which they're called Cineria, and they're like an alien race that evolved in like a gas giant planet atmosphere. So they're very vulnerable to explosions. They're essentially flammable. So any like one spark would destroy their invasion fleet. So they have to, in order for them to conquer planets, they have to terraform them and kind of come in as benefactors.
Yeah. And so they get rid of everybody and then kind of exploit the resources. What lovely people.
The Doctor's able to monitor the network of communications between the benefactors who are in a cloaked ship orbiting Earth, not thousands of light years away like humanity thinks. And he's able to trigger the attack pattern for the whale ships, so they form into a pattern to basically to gas the cities and release all the gases they've been collecting in population areas to choke out humanity. The Doctor decloaks the invasion ship, which causes the aliens to retreat because they were revealed. And importantly, they think it was the human race and not the Doctor who saved them. And then the Doctor says, you can thank me by saving the planet the hard way and trying to fix climate change. And then he said, one of the whale creatures crashed into the ocean, so you may be able to engineer some of the atmospheric scrubbing technology from it. So that's kind of where the story ends. I thought this story was a little bit better than the first. It made, I think, more sense to be in this collection, but now Martha has to explain time travel and 2088 to those listening.
Yes.
Also doesn't really seem to be a super inspiring story after the slaughter that happened in the marketplace. So again, I'm running into this kind of where the ongoing narrative feels disjointed from the stories that are picked in this.
Yeah. I can't really argue with that. I know you said it reminded you of V. It reminded me very much of Grant Morrison. Very early on in his Justice League run, had a story in which kind of aliens arrive and they are the benefactors, and it turns out, no, they're not. I think generally, future generations, if aliens arrive and if they say, "Oh, we're going to do you a big favour," don't trust them.
Yes. So then we go to the next part of kind of the framing story of the Year of Martha. And Martha and Mathieu, they go from camp to camp, kind of across Europe by ATV, staying one step ahead of Griffin and his UCF gang by sending false sighting reports across the Archangel network. Which they're able to kind of tap into. Martha throughout this is kind of telling more stories and asking others to be like her, to be their own Martha Jones.
And some even claim that they are Martha Jones, just to kind of like further muddy the waters, as you're kind of alluding. So it's almost like a kind of a Spartacus moment.
Yeah, definitely. One of the chapters ends with them appearing to get captured, but it turns out they weren't captured after all. It was stopped by a different rebel cell, so it was a bit of a misdirection there. The narrative jumps ahead a few months, and Martha is flying above the Aegean Sea in western Russia, looking for a contact on the ground known only as the Brigadier.
Yes, and so she arrives sort of in Turkey, and she's kind of been deposited at the meeting place, and she's been told that the code word is Benton by the pilot. But also we know that nearby Griffin and his men are watching for the helicopter, and so like the net is drawing in on Martha. But the underground folk are ahead of the game. She's been told to kind of go and meet them at this hill, but the hill isn't like a real place. It's kind of a code name for the underground's kind of rendezvous points. She meets up with the Brigadier whilst Griffin's men are kind of like searching with the hills, and the Brigadier is not Lethbridge Stewart, but it's some bloke called Eric Calvin.
And I was really hoping it would be Brigadier Bambera myself. I thought that would have been really cool.
That would have been good. Yeah, that would have been a good twist, but instead it's somebody who I don't think we've ever heard of.
It says his father was in some of the adventures with the Third Doctor in Unit, but I wasn't tracking on the last name, so I don't know any like Unit regulars back in the day that were named Calvin, or even one-offs. So
I don't remember, I must say. It does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity, a tiny bit, not to kind of time it a bit closer. He asks Martha if she's got a weapon to kill the Master, and she says, but she hasn't. But it's not the Doctor's way to kind of use weapons to kill the Master, apart from when it suits them. She says that it's probably not a bad thing to let the rumour persist that some weapon like that exists. So they decide to kind of carry on with the Doctor's plan, spreading stories about the Doctor so that one day he can use the Archangel comm system against him.
Martha makes the suggestion to the Brigadier, hey, you should include some tales about the third Doctor. And then I thought to myself, well, why don't we get one of those? Why don't we get one of those included?
Yes, because that would be maybe more fun. Yes. But yeah, though it'd probably been written by Terrance Dicks and might have kind of stuck out like a sore thumb with the rest of these.
One quick aside, just real quick on Terrance Dicks.
Yeah.
He did write a couple of shorter novels called quick reads for, I think, both for the 10th Doctor, one with the 10th Doctor and Martha, and I think the other one was with Rose. But there was an interesting little, I forget what it is, but you get the Terrance Dicks' target description of what he would have used for the 10th Doctor, similar to like the plain open face for the 5th Doctor. But kind of an interesting publishing twist. The Terrance Dicks story he wrote with Martha in it preceded her debut on television by about 3 months or so.
Oh.
It was the very first appearance of Martha is by Terrance Dicks.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not the first time that Terrance Dicks has kind of preempted TV, because The Five Doctors, as a book, I think was released before the TV version was broadcast.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, there is a precedent.
6 months in, and Martha has reached Japan.
Yay!
So this gets a reference, I think, in the
TV. Yeah, it does. And one thing that the BBC have to do, as I think as part of their charter, but certainly they have to make sure that if they have spin-off stuff, that you can watch or listen to the original material broadcast for free on the BBC without your having to have purchased other material to understand it. So certainly, I mean, you do not have to have read this to enjoy is a strong word, but appreciate Last of the Time Lords. Sorry, Last of the Time Lords, as I said last time, it is not a favourite story of mine. In fact, I dislike it so much that my favourite moment that I described last time was the Dalek speaking German, which of course is not from Last of the Time Lords. So yes, I put myself through Sound of Drums just to get myself in the mood for this, and I just watched another 10 minutes of Last of the Time Lords. No, that's it, I've had enough. Sorry.
I think the best part of Sound of Drums is I think that's where we get the appearance of Gallifrey in that flashback, right?
Yes,
I think that's the highlight of that episode for me.
Yes. Sorry, Japan. Yes.
Martha's in Japan, and this is where the guidance systems are being built for the rockets that the Master is constructing. Martha looks for her contact, but they never show up, so she has to make new plans to try and get into one of the labor camp domes. And as she gets closer to these work domes, her perception filter fails, and she gets picked up by the local guard squad. And she gets sent to a dome where she works for weeks at a time welding two chips together and on an assembly line, and it's looking pretty grim. She's kind of trapped there, but she finally has enough strength after a couple weeks to tell a story to the other workers there. And this part reminded me a little bit of, at least the descriptions of like the workplace and stuff reminded me a little of like some of those undercover exposés that you hear about, like Foxconn and
Yes,
working in China, like those conditions. It's like very scary. So we move on to The Frozen Wastes by Robert Shearman.
Yes. Yeah, Rob Shearman's a very, I think, a very well-known, or hopefully a very well-known author. I mean, he's more known for his audio plays than for his kind of book work as such. Did Jubilee, sort of Holy Terror, Maltese Penguin, amongst others, but especially Chimes of Midnight, which I think is possibly my favourite Big Finish audio story.
It's like the original Doctor Who Christmas special in a way.
It is. It's fabulous. I first heard it one Christmas, and it just shivers up the spine.
He's also co-written Running Through Corridors with Toby Hadoke, which I'm still waiting on Volume 3 of that.
Well, it took a long time for Volume 2 to come out. You referenced, I think, the audio play 100 from Big Finish. So he wrote one part of that as well, My Own Private Wolfgang, about Mozart living to a historically inaccurate long age.
Yes, so we go from a wasteland to a frozen wasteland.
The Frozen Wastes.
A frozen wasteland was also the same as our first story. I wish there were more variety.
Yeah.
From one setting to the same setting. But this story starts out, Martha breaks her arm as a little girl. Her brother, Leo, who we've seen in the series, is kind of pushing her too hard on a swing, and she falls off or jumps and breaks her arm. And at that moment, she decided she wanted to become a doctor. And we get a
curious insight into her teenage mind, because instead of having posters of kind of like pop singers of the 90s, she instead covers her walls with pictures of anatomy. And the internal workings of the body. It takes all sorts, doesn't it?
We intercut Martha's experiences as a child and kind of her hopes and dreams with a child in the 1800s in France named Pierre, who only dreams of the color white and doesn't have any other dreams whatsoever. And he goes to an exhibition in Paris and sees like the white landscape of like a picture taken at one of the poles. I think it was the North Pole.
Yes.
And he wants to be an Arctic explorer, and he proposes going to the North Pole by balloon. And the Doctor and Martha are attending his lecture. And that's where our third dramatic reading is, a brief excerpt from this section where the Doctor's listing off everything that could go wrong with flying an air balloon.
Pierre Briere spoke to the Geographical Congress, and as he warmed to his subject, he forgot to be nervous. He explained how a balloon could cover in a few days distances it would take them months with their dogs and sleds. He wasn't wringing his hands any longer. Now he was punching the air with his fist every time he made a point. "He sounds convincing enough," Martha had said, a little cautiously. "Oh, he's brilliant," said the Doctor. "You've got to be impressed by the sheer ingenuity of it all. All these people trying to explore the Arctic, this man comes at the problem sideways on. I love sideways on. There's really only one problem. Well, one big problem. Lots of little problems. There are tons of those, of course. What are the little problems?" "Right, well, for a start, you can't steer a balloon. I mean, you can do a bit with drag ropes, drop them over the side, you get pulled in that direction. But against the Arctic winds? I don't think so, do you? Then there's the gas. At that temperature, you're at the mercy of the sun. When the sun shines, the hydrogen expands, the balloon rises. When it hits a cloud, down you go. And then there's the balloon itself, 'cause that's made up of thousands and thousands of silk sheets, all stitched together. Each of the little stitch holes, that's something the gas can leak through, and it will." "They don't sound like little problems." "Nah," said the Doctor, "they're pretty small, really."
So the Doctor and Martha decide that they want to join up with Pierre on this expedition, despite, I don't know, if I were Martha and the Doctor lists everything that goes wrong and that this is probably a one-way trip, I don't know that I'd volunteer to fly in this balloon and leave the TARDIS behind.
No, I don't think I would. I think I'll just say, right, I'll just, fly the TARDIS there. It'll be nice. It'll be good. Have we also said that the Doctor's quite puzzled because he believes that Pierre and his companions had vanished without trace 3 months earlier? he's wondering what on earth's going on. I have never been tempted to do a hot air balloon. I've flown a helicopter, I've flown in a few different types of planes, but the idea of being trapped in a basket with a giant ball of gas and sort of naked flame, it doesn't seem relaxing.
The one thing that would appeal to me, I think, and I saw this on I don't know if you ever saw Stephen Fry Across America, that series. He did one episode where he was doing a hot air balloon, and the one thing that did strike me about how cool it would be is just how peaceful it is in terms of there not being any sound. So it's, being able to, apart from occasionally, turning on the heater or whatever, just to be able to experience flight without like the noise of engines, and that appeals to me a little bit, but I don't know enough to get into one myself either.
The health and safety aspects just put me off. Yeah. But anyway, so they're all having a lovely trip. They're all kind of singing songs, and Martha is dreaming of kind of like becoming a doctor, but she's also feeling this voice intruding into her dreams, and they wake up and she finds that the balloon is kind of losing height at a rapid pace. They're starting to kind of throw their stores and equipment out in order to lighten the load, but it's not until they jettison their food that it works. And I was like, really? We're chucking the food out? Okay. And the doctor says that some mysterious force seems to be kind of like in operation, and they all kind of like share their dreams, which is interesting because sometimes we've been told that the doctor doesn't dream. Yeah, he says that in this bit as well.
We know that the 50th proved that wrong, though.
Well, he says it, and then he sort of says later that he kind of dreams about the unknown and the dangers of it. So we're not quite sure what's the truth here. Pierre also says again that he dreams of nothing but expanses of white. Poor Pierre, he's a bit of an obsessive, isn't he?
And the doctor realizes that they're all kind of experiencing deja vu, and Pierre's writing frantically in his journal. And I think they come to the realization or the doctor mentions that we've been doing this a very long time and we should have reached the North Pole by now. And he's saying that potentially years could have passed, but also that only a couple of seconds have passed. And it was like a time loop, not unlike Heaven Sent, where the same bits keep playing over and over again. And the doctor decides he looks over the edge, and the food that they had chucked out was still there from earlier, and it should have been frozen over, or they should have moved on, or it should have been covered with snow by this point, but it looks like they had freshly dropped it. And then he tries to, I think, pop the balloon, right?
Yes, with his sonic screwdriver.
And gas is kind of still in place there. They're still hanging there, even though the balloon's popped by some external force. So they realize that they're trapped, and they're not moving at all of their own volition. And then they look out across the North Pole, and they see
there's dozens of identical balloons, all containing different versions of Pierre
with different assistants.
Yes, that was quite a shock. I think I was reading it.
It made me wonder if Rob Sherman had watched The Prestige before. It seemed like a similar sort of conceit there, where there are so many duplicates. And it turns out that there's an entity stuck at the North Pole that's been invading their dreams, that enticed Pierre to come there as a child with the dreams of white. And that this creature, who we never really learn too much about, but is kind of stocking its larder, and it feeds on human ambition, and is kind of feasting on the memories and the hopes and dreams of all these explorers that it's trapped at the North Pole. And it takes the Doctor and Martha, both of them, to kind of gorge the entity with their memories in order to get it to overload. So it's not just... I was thinking that the Doctor would be the catalyst, but it turns out it was Martha that was, where, again, this was written before. Kind of reminded me of the resolution to the Monk trilogy this year, where the Doctor tries to overload the net with his memories, and it takes Bill and hers to overload it for it to happen.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, no, you're right.
And we never, once the time loop breaks, we never find out what happens to all the other versions of Pierre.
No. We also don't know how exactly they get back to the TARDIS either, I don't think.
Maybe it's just that it's undone because Pierre instead becomes a baker, creating powdered donut holes.
Yes.
Lots of icing.
Because like the icing just reminds them of the endless wastes of snow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And then they end up jumping forward a couple years, and Martha becomes the first human to the North Pole, and then they jump forward again 200 years later to visit the museum and the gift shop.
It's a depressing thought, isn't it? Probably be a bit of green land, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. And again, this one just didn't feel super inspiring to me because the underlying message is, hey kid, don't be an explorer, be a content baker instead. I don't know.
I mean, it's a bitter pill. It's a great story. I mean, it was my favourite story of the collection.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very well written. And it makes me a bit sad that Rob Shearman hasn't actually sort of written sort of more narratives as opposed to plays.
He's written 2 short story collections that I've read a couple of the stories from. One's called Tiny Deaths and the other's called Love Songs for the Shy and Cynical. And each collection kind of reads like a missing volume of like Twilight Zone episodes. They're both they've all got that kind of Rob Shearman twist in them. One question I have with this one, though, is, so as Pierre's, like, making all these expeditions, one after the other, at some point, do you think, like, the silk shop would say, hey, you stopped by 999 other times this morning. Here's your balloon.
Yes.
I'm just like, how does that all work? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's beautiful. Also, it's one of the few stories to actually give us any kind of insight into Martha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in her past, yep.
Yeah, you'd have kind of thought that might have been touched upon. I would say, reading some of these stories, often it could have been any companion. And whilst, this story, it didn't have to be Martha, but at least, you kind of felt that he was wanting just to kind of explore the cast that he was working with.
Mm-hmm. Of the 4 short stories, and even with the framing narrative, this felt to me like the strongest story of the bunch by far. Yeah.
I mean, maybe the reason why Martha's telling this to the people in the labour camp is just to kind of distract them with a compelling story. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not a cheerful one, but
bit of escapism, maybe.
Yeah. So, should we move back into the main framing narrative?
Yes. Martha learns she has a new cellmate on her floor as Griffin, the Overwatch guy who's been pursuing her all this time, has been captured and is one of the workers.
He says that he reckons that the UCF and the Master aren't actually in charge in Japan, that it's something else. Like in the past, his phone link to UCS failed, and one of his colleagues was killed by patrol. Martha and Griffin are gradually start to realise that they're going to have to work together if they're going to escape.
Every month, the guards come by and they ask for 30 volunteers who are taken to another plant that has a laboratory there. And none of these volunteers ever return back. So it's like a one-way ticket, and they promise the volunteers, hey, you'll have your freedom after some time, etc. But it's a one-way death sentence. But and usually there aren't any volunteers for it. But this time, Martha and a whole bunch of Martha's followers who have been protecting her within the camp, as well as Griffin, they volunteer to be taken to this other place.
Yeah, so when they get to this other place, a place called Koban, Martha has to kind of strip naked, which seems a bit gratuitous. After she's kind of entered the plant, she's kind of singled out and named by this disembodied voice. And it turns out that this plant is being run by a group of aliens called the Drast. And they're very interested in the Doctor and the Master.
And they've been trying to infiltrate Japan's tech sector for over a decade. So this is like a slow invasion that the Master's plans kind of disrupted.
Yeah, I thought that was quite a genius twist, really. It's like, oh, there's other people trying to invade.
And the reason her perception filter stopped working is because there's already a filter in place near the domes that are masking the Drasts and their invasion plans. So a perception filter within a perception filter kind of cancels itself out, and that's why Martha was visible.
Yeah.
And the Drast are taking one of the Master's black hole converters and are modifying it to become a random wormhole generator. The aliens are trying to escape the planet because they realize they can't beat the master. But they're just opening this portal to random places, and they don't know if it's safe or not for them to escape to. So they take one of the volunteers, tie a rope around them, and send them through.
It's a bit like Time Lash, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's a little bit like Time Lash, but with better effects, because you don't have to see the tinsel. But
they've been doing this for months, and they've run through like close to 100 people doing this, and Martha sees like her friends like get sent through, and they pull back like a smoldering rope, and they're like, well, that destination didn't work. And could be the vacuum of space or the inside of a star, or who knows where they're, it's just random. Martha notices that on the next trial or the next day that Griffin gets selected as the person who's going to be going through next. And then she tells her final story,
Yes.
not to other humans, but in this case to the aliens that she's trying to reason with the Drast. And Martha's, I think, telling this story in an effort to try and get them to be reasonable and empathize with the humans, which leads us to Star-Crossed by Simon Jowett. He's contributed to some of the James Bond comics and the 2000 AD series, and he's worked on a number of TV series. He's done computer games and tie-in books for like Finding Nemo and Wallace and Gromit and some other stuff. So
he did a comic story for the Seventh Doctor in the 80s, The Enlightenment of Lai Chi the Wise. Marvel UK did this thing called The Incredible Hulk Presents that I was possibly the only person that had all the issues of. It went for about 11 or 12 issues, and it had the Hulk, Doctor Who, and a couple of other randomly selected franchises. Most of the Doctor Who material in it was original, but some of it did pop up later in Doctor Who magazine. That one didn't. But anyway, sorry, there's a digression. Star-Crossed, yes.
So we open with it's a cryogenic ship full of colonists and families it's kind of in the dark gulf between solar systems, and it's a solar powered ship, so its batteries have been depleted. And it opens with this tense standoff between these two different groups, and the Doctor and Martha are on each side of the conflict. The Doctor is with the colonists, and Martha is with the they're called artificials, and they're growing. I was thinking of like the pudding people from the Matt Smith story.
Yes. Yeah. I was
the gangers.
The gangers, yes. Yep. Oh, what a great story that was.
Talk about a story that didn't need two parts. That one was. It's like, oh, we have a whole nother episode of this. I remember thinking.
Yeah, my heart sank. But yes. So the Doctor's kind of meeting the head of the steering council. He's been told that the breeds, which is a term for these artificials, these clones, have changed their designated identities, and they've kind of been giving themselves kind of human names. And so the breed that captured Martha at the start of the story is now going by the name of Edison, and the breeds are kind of starting to transcend their original programming. And
Edison fell in love with one of the colonists as well. One of the women who were there.
Yeah, Romea. Yeah. And there's this rule that kind of like forbids these relationships, and so Edison and Romea are on the run, and the colonists want to kind of restart this thing called the Fabricator, which will provide equipment that they'll need to colonize the world that their generation ship's heading to.
This is where the dramatic reading comes in for this story. It's going through kind of the rules of the artificials on the ship, and talks a little bit about there's like a rendering vat where once a artificial has run its course, and this reminded me a little bit of like the replicants from Blade Runner, where you have a limited lifespan, but in this case the replicants or the artificials, they have to go back into the rendering vat where their bodies will be broken down and then used for new clones.
Martha noticed the young woman squeeze Edison's hand as they moved ahead of her along the corridor. In front of them moved the rest of the breed. Artificials, Martha reminded herself, from the decanting unit. That cramped, slightly smelly room was where Edison and the rest of them were grown and stored. The mouldy smell, Martha had discovered, came from the last of the growth fluid, which had curdled in the curved bottoms of the growth tanks. Martha had been peering into the grey-brown sludge at the bottom of one of the vats when a weird flutter seemed to go through the artificials, as if they were stalks of identical corn being moved by the breeze. Suddenly, they were heading out of the door, led by an Edison lookalike who had introduced himself as Byron. There was a Jason, a Curie, and a Demosthenes in the group too, Martha had discovered as they introduced themselves, once she had stopped hyperventilating at the sight of 10 identical copies of the creature she believed had kidnapped and almost killed her. They approached slowly, as if trying to calm a frightened animal. Then the young woman, Romeo, had stepped forward to explain and apologize for Martha's rough treatment. Edison hadn't intended to hurt her, but artificials were stronger than humans. They had to be, as there was no heavy lifting machinery on board. Not yet, anyway. Artificials are forbidden from fraternizing with colonists, Edison continued. The rules are quite clear.
As we were saying, the doctor and Martha are separated, and the doctor's able to kind of get into the heads of the artificials. He's using a sonic powered microphone to kind of keep everyone at bay. And while he's doing that, he learns from the pilot ship, kind of the AI programming, that all of the colonists have actually died, and half of the humans died in their cryo chambers, and then the other half of the colonists were able to be revived, but they were also, I guess, they transferred their consciousness, or...
Yeah, I think that's about right, yeah.
They downloaded an imprint of their personalities into clones of themselves. So the twist of this story is that everyone's an artificial. And that's kind of where this one ends, where the doctor says, okay, now you all have to get along, and I'll top off your power cells from the TARDIS so you have more energy. But I thought this one was an interesting twist. I didn't really see that coming, where it turns out they were all...
Yeah, I didn't, but also I didn't find it particularly kind of like engaging. And also it annoyed me because the Doctor starts using an alien martial art, and I kind of think, oh, it's going to be finished, Aikido, but no, it's Amtorian Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, oh, okay. How come this has never been mentioned before?
There was also kind of a weird plot thread that didn't really go anywhere, where both the Doctor and Martha kept experiencing deja vu throughout the story, to the point where I was wondering, like, had they run through this before, and were the Doctor and Martha also artificials? But they never did anything with that. It was just kind of a weird one-off where Martha's like, this seems like this has happened before. The other thing I didn't really understand about this story is, again, why tell this story to inspire? It's like, oh, in the future, humanity all gets killed and replaced by deadly machines. And it's like, hello, that's what the Tochlafane are already doing.
But also maybe it tells the aliens that, look, humanity will overcome. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's an odd choice. So.
And sure enough, the Drast who are listening to this in the kind of the framing story, they're not convinced by it.
What a surprise!
And Griffin is getting ready to go through the portal as the next victim. He is able to break free, kills some of the guards, and is ready to destroy the wormhole, which would basically blow up the entire chain of islands, all of Japan. The Drast are kind of forced to unmask themselves, which, by them shutting down the perception filters, immediately the master's able to pick up on, oh, something's wrong, something's happening in Japan. And then there's kind of a funny aside as to who tells the master the bad news.
Yes.
Aboard the Valiant.
I love that. You know, sometimes in some of the kind of the Star Wars spin-off media, you sort of see things about what it would be like to be like a stormtrooper or something like that. People are very, very concerned about sort of not giving the master the bad news. And Griffin's ringing for help, and so wants the UCF to kind of come and help him. And like the master, once he does find out, let's put it this way, he is not best pleased that the Drast are on what he regards as his planet, and so he orders Japan to be burnt. And Martha manages to like escape on a ship, which is the last ship to leave before all this happens, and so she she watches Japan blaze. But and Griffin, in a rather brutal twist, he's failed to get his credentials authorised by the Master's people up on the Valiant, and so he gets executed by the Tochlafane. Which seems like a suitable end to him.
And Martha's able to escape with some of the prisoners because her perception filter starts to work again once the big ones were shut off. And she heads on like you were saying, she heads on a ship to San Diego. So the last 6 months is kind of her touring, North and South America, and then the book ends where it begins, where she is meeting up with Tom Milligan in the UK.
So, what do you make of that?
Oh. Well, overall, I thought it was a little bit disjointed. The framing narrative took up over half the book, so for me it felt like the balance was kind of off. I think there either should have been less of a plot in the framing device and, just have more stories with the Doctor, or just have it be the framing device and flesh out that story a little bit more. I did like how it kind of filled in a gap for me, so I feel like now know what Martha experienced during that extra year. But it was, as you alluded to last month, it was kind of a slog through the wastelands. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I mean, there's definite highlights. I mean, I'm very glad that I read the Robert Shearman story, and I enjoyed most of the Dan Abnett stuff. That was pretty solid, and the Japan scenes were exciting and gripping. I just some of the other stories just didn't really come to life. And also in the flashback stories, I don't know if I've ever really got a sense of the 10th Doctor, apart from possibly in Star-Crossed. There were some moments in that final story where I could say, this did feel like, I could picture David Tennant. Did feel a lot more 10th Doctor-y. It wasn't a great success, but I was glad and quite pleased that I enjoyed the stuff that's kind of set between Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords more than I thought. Yeah.
I did like Freema Agyeman's narration. I thought she was good at that, and would be nice if she eventually did some Big Finish stories with David Tennant. I know they've done one volume with Catherine Tate and one with Billy Piper. I think they've reached out to Freema. I think Nick Briggs had mentioned something about that on Radio Free Skaro, but her agent said she wasn't doing anything Doctor Who related at this point, and I think she's still wrapping up Sense8, her work on that series. But her narration was a highlight for me. But yeah, overall, I've always wanted to read this book because, I was just kind of curious, like, what did Martha get up to? But the stories that were chosen and how it was kind of structurally put together, there was a lot to overcome. And there just wasn't enough content, I think, to make it really compelling. So, anything else you'd want to say about this one?
No, I'm happy to choose a number and then consign it to the list of Doctor Who material, what I've read.
Sure. How would you score this one?
I think I'll give this one a 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be tempted. Frozen Waste on its own, I think Frozen Waste helps lift it, to be honest. But I think giving it a 6 would be too generous. Yeah, sorry, Dan Abnett.
I was kind of toying between a 3 and a 4. So I think I'll go with a 4. Yeah, it just didn't. It felt like less of the sum of its parts, maybe. But again, I'm glad I read it, and I do feel like I know Martha a little bit more character-wise, which is good. But onwards and upwards after this, I think.
Hopefully so. Yes, hopefully.
Let's go ahead and do some listener mail now.
Yes.
We have one letter written in. This is from our listener, Ben, who I think has written in once or twice before. He just had a couple of notes on things we had said last month in Seeing Eye. One of which, Chris, you already mentioned. The Dalek-speaking German was the 4th series finale with Davros and not the 3rd series finale.
Sorry.
Both had Martha dressed in black fatigues going through the wilderness and wastelands, so... This is true. I can see where the mix-up may have come in.
I've seen Journey's End a lot more than I have Last of the Time Lords. So I had the privilege for the 50th anniversary time to see the 4th season finale at the BFI with the presence of Anneke Wills and more relevantly David Tennant and Catherine Tate, which was just fantastic. It was especially great just seeing that on the big screen.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, really good.
He has a note for myself as well. He said he's a MCU fan, so that's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he states that it was Jarvis was the AI fighting Ultron and not Vision, so I stand corrected. Whoops. Yeah, that was Jarvis. Although I think he kind of morphed into Vision. But...
I think it did. But I've only seen that film once, and I have had no desire to rewatch it.
And then the last note from his email, it was that the Bainbridge Prison Institute, it also shows up in Kate Orman's novel Blue Box. So
okay.
I don't think I've read that one yet, but
no,
interesting.
No. Yeah, Blue Box is one that I have an eye on it. Let's put it that way. I'd quite like to do that, but having done a Kate Orman one recently, it's not going to be anytime soon. But yeah. Cool.
And do you have anything on
Facebook? Yes. So listener Jeff has been in contact, and he agrees with your theory that the cat that we saw in Seeing Eye was the TARDIS, or a kind of an embodiment of it. And he thinks it's kind of like a callback to Cat's Cradle.
So...
Yeah.
The reason I thought that was because when the doctor picks up the cat at one point and has this conversation with it that made me think that he was talking to the TARDIS. Yeah, it's never really remarked on or...
Yeah, it's possibly too subtly done. maybe something got lost in the edit. So I must confess, I've not actually looked on iTunes to see if there's been any more kind of things said on there. So apologies. We very much enjoy and appreciate any interactions. Do please give reviews on iTunes, because it helps feed the algorithm, and that algorithm is ever hungry.
So what are we reading next month? Chris, it's your...
Yes. So I kind of thought, because of the recent Christmas special, that it'd be nice to spend a bit more time with the First Doctor, Ben and Polly, and see how offensive the First Doctor is. see whether he's at all racist and sexist. So we are going to be reading 10 Little Aliens by Stephen Cole. That is, I think it's set shortly before the 10th Planet. Never read it. I know that there is, shall we say, an interesting narrative bit in it, which I shall say no more, but I am looking forward to how on earth it's done. An odd thing that will happen at one point.
I'm intrigued. And I think Stephen Cole, he became the editor of The Range. Was it before or after Justin Richards?
He was before Justin Richards. So he kind of took over the Eighth Doctor and Past Doctor Adventures fairly early on in their reign. And so tried to sort of think, well, what do we do about Sam? How do we make this palatable? He's written a few novels, and we recently read some of his stuff in Short Trips. Because he was at Tara Sam, so using that pseudonym for his story. I think that was one that was set in Cambridge during the events of Sharda.
Oh, right, yeah.
The glass creatures, or the creatures lurking in the glass. I mean, I enjoyed that one more than you from memory, but I certainly felt from that he can write. There is a, shall we say, an interesting history of Doctor Who book editors commissioning themselves to write a book, and sometimes it being terrible. Peter Darwell Evans, looking at you. Yes.
Exciting! I'm looking forward to it. We haven't done a First Doctor yet, so that'll be great.
Should be good. Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, until next month, I've been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song, Doctor Who Theme, Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. You can support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
Cool, brilliant.
That was short and sweet, I think.
Yes, well, short. Yes.
This was an odd one. I was thinking it was going to be a lot better than it turned out, I guess.
Yeah, I think I said in a message to you, I mean, I read half of it on a flight, like a very, very turbulent flight. And I was just like, I could either switch off my Kindle, I know I need to read this, and just enjoy the choppiness and the fact that the fasten seatbelt sign is on and I can't move from my seat and there's somebody next to me who's itching to go to the loo, or I just sort of like, no, I'll just read this.
You just have to power on through the wasteland.
Yes, you do. Oh, joy.